This is the Milo Beasley Show. This is the Milo Beasley Show. There's only one thing you need to know. This is the Milo Beasley Show. And now, here's your host, Milo Beasley.
And welcome to the Milo Beasley Show, dude, episode number 364. I'm so excited. I can't even tell you how excited I am this week. So let's go ahead and bring out our guest. You know her from the Nanny, King of Queens, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and probably like 100 other things where you're going to be like, oh my God, yes, I know her. Please help me welcome at this time, DeeDee Rescher. How are you doing?
This is the Milo Beasley Show.
It's going to be in your head all day now.
You know what? I'm going to re-record that for you.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it.
Hi, Milo. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm, and again, thank you for answering my email. And so let me tell you how the way my mind works when I'm looking for guests. I look for people who were on shows with my friends. And I have a good friend of mine who his name is Data Snyder, and he was the ghost in The Ghost and Molly McGee. And as I looked at the IMDb, and I saw that you had you had done a couple shows, and then I was looking at your IMDb, and just like I said, you were like, "Oh my, yes, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. I remember that." And I was like, "I need to have DeeDee on my show." So again, thank you so much. I mean,
I got nothing else going today, babe. You're it.
Oh, hey, I am glad that I am it. But let's talk a little bit about how you got started. I mean, so you were just a babe when you got started in this business, right?
Yeah. Well, I come from a show business family, as a lot of us do, because so we just can't help ourselves. And so my mother, put us all into dance school like at 2 years old or something, which was really wild then, because now, they're using computers at 2 years old, but whatever. In those days, it was unusual. And so I had my first tap recital at the age of 4, and that did it. I was hooked. So, okay. So, because your mother was an actor coming from, again, she wasn't even a first generation performer. She was a second generation. Your grandfather was in business. Same on the other side. Your father, a cinematographer. And as you said, his Emmy is in the background. That's it's back there. Okay, you see it. There it is.
It's there.
You can come on over and get a picture of you taken with it.
Oh, absolutely.
A little bit. He had 3 of those, actually.
Oh,
he also had 3 daughters. So it worked out when he died. We each got an Emmy.
Oh, well, it's almost like it was planned.
Yeah. So yeah, my grandfather, my mother's father, was Otto Kruger, and he was, he started out in silent films, and he did vaudeville, and then talkies came in, and he did like a million. I think he's got like 300 movies under his belt. And then in the later years, he was doing like Perry Mason and Bonanza and stuff like that. And my mother, and he did a lot of Broadway. So my mother did Broadway shows with him, which was cool. And then my mother met my father, who was a stage manager at the time, at a summer stock place up in the Adirondacks. And they did what you do in summer stock. And so my sister was born, and well, of course, in the meantime, they got married. And anyway, he decided that if he was gonna, he had 3 girls, decided if there were going to be 4 women in the family, he was going to have to make a lot of money. So he got out of stage managing, and his father was the founder of the first photographers local in New York, which he formed in his basement in Manhasset, Long Island. And anyway, so he got my dad into the union. Obviously, that was an easy job, but my dad took to it. And he became, as we know now, a 3-time Emmy Award-winning cinematographer.
That's great. And I love that with your story, you know, as you were, you're saying you were put in the dance and you felt the bug, you felt, you got hooked. It wasn't forced, which you might think, we're somebody who's, family and family and family has been in the industry, that it was like, this is what you're going to do. No, it seems like you genuinely liked it.
I love the attention. See, that it's so simple, I just want to be, center stage all the time. I'm just kidding. I'm not really like that. But yeah, I did get the bug. And it ended up being a really cool, fun journey. I'm really glad I did it. There were times when I regretted because I never went to college. I went straight to New York, started my career right away. First show I got was a crazy show called El Grande de Coca-Cola. And it was starring Jeff Goldblum and myself and Ron Silver, the late, great Ron Silver, and one other person. And it was the craziest, wonderful show.
Jeff.
Oh, there he is. Awesome. Okay,
he's with me every episode.
Jeff and I were in acting class together, as was Larry David in our acting class.
What?
Yeah. And I'm sorry, what's her name? Rhoda, who just died.
Oh, Valerie.
Valerie Harper.
Yeah.
She was in our class. Yeah, we had a real star-studded class. Anyway, so Jeff Goldblum was the one who actually got me that gig. And that gig brought me out to LA. And we opened at the Whiskey A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip. So my first job in LA was at the Whiskey, and this was in the early 80s, like late 70s, early 80s. And it was crazy. And I ended up backstage doing cocaine with our producer, and I ended up marrying him. I don't know what came over me. Anyway, that was my first husband, Roy Silver, who was also an Emmy Award-winning manager and producer. He managed Bill Cosby for 11 years. He had his own record company, Tetragrammaton. He had Jackson Browne and Flip Wilson, and so I lived up in like the mansion on the top of Doheny Drive. The name of the road was Magnetic Terrace.
Magnetic Terrace.
Anyway, it's still there. There's only 3 houses on the road. And so that was my start. I was like 22 years old, married this 45-year-old big time producer who was going to make me a star. And he got me signed to the William Morris office, and it was all whoa. And I did all these pilots, and then it kind of went as it does.
Right.
I remember walking into William Morris one day, and I used to go during the lunch hour when none of the agents were there. I would just like leave my resume on the top and my picture on the top of their desk, so that when they got back from lunch, they'd go, oh yeah, DeeDee Rescher. So one day when I was doing that, I found a priority list on one of the desks of one of the agents. And I was on page 39 at the end. And I was like, I need to get out of here now. So I did. And then it's been a lifelong of a lot of agents that didn't, bless their hearts. Things didn't really work out the way we intended them to, but it's still been a really marvelous run.
Right. I mean, I was going to say, there's probably stories upon stories of people who moved to LA, had a big break, and then you never hear from them again. But we're still hearing from you. I think that's the best part. You're still. So how active are you? Are you seeking out things occasionally, or when your agent recommends things, like how
I definitely will work. I love working, and I don't want to work a whole bunch. I actually have a gig right now that's like perfect for me. It's it's on the Disney Channel, and it's a very popular show right now. It's a kids show called Bunked.
Bunked.
And it's in its 7th season, and they just brought me on last season with 2 other girls, and we play these 3 old biddies who are like the nemesis of the town of Dusty Tush.
Right.
And we're hilarious. It's a lot of fun, and so hopefully there'll be more of those this year. And my other love, which I do, and I'll do it as you ask me, drop of a hat, I'll be there, is stage. So I'm always active in stage. I like the gypsy life. My latest husband likes the gypsy life.
That's fantastic.
I introduce him as, this is my latest husband.
That's great.
My most recent husband.
Until the next one.
Yeah, right. So that I love doing, and that's really become my first love. So because I love the craft of it. It's so like with a sitcom. I mean, I would certainly not turn down a regular or even recurring role on a sitcom. I mean, what am I, crazy? I would totally do that. But if you don't have a recurring or a regular role, you have a guest star role, which I've done a bajillion of, but not enough to make me really good and confident at the genre. I mean, it's not easy. It is a whole different animal. You don't have time to act. Right. I mean, I feel like I'm really good at acting, but when I get up there, you got to do it in 2 seconds, and you're the guest star. So you're really only the conduit to the road to the star's laugh. You're not going to get the laugh. Right. You don't get the laugh line. You get the lead up line.
You get the setup, right?
So you don't get the chance to really get into the groove. I mean, that's why I love the recurring roles. Like when I was doing King of Queens with playing Bryan Cranston's wife, which, wow, what a thrill.
Right.
So we did enough of those that I started to feel like, yeah, I'm going to work, instead of, oh God, So at any rate, it's all good, and I'm really proud of what I've done. And to answer your original question, yeah, absolutely. If anybody's watching this and you want to give me a job, just call my agent.
Right. So I love Broadway shows. I don't sing or dance or anything. Especially sing. So I would never be caught anywhere on a stage. Right. But I love going, like, I'm going to go see Wicked next week. And then in the summer, I'm actually going to go see, I'm heading up to New York to go to Broadway to see the Back to the Future show that they brought to the stage. Are there any shows out there now that you are, one, either excited for, and two, a secondary question, is there a show or a movie? Because again, that's what it all is, like Beetlejuice is now a stage show. Back to the Future are there any older shows or movies that you would like to see get a stage adaptation?
Wow. You're going to have to ask me that, and I'll tell you on the next interview. I really have to think about that. I mean, I think we could do Gone with the Wind as a comedy.
As a comedy?
Yeah. I mean, as God is my witness, I'll never eat a bad turnip again. I don't know. But Mammy, you just got to make it 18 inches again. I mean, it's a whole new world.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'd really have to think about that.
So what was the last show that you saw that you were like, oh man, this blew me away?
Well, I just saw one the other night. And it was just, I go to a lot of small theater, and I have a friend who says, because we have so many friends in the business. And so you're constantly going to small theater. And it's like, oh,
right.
God, another show. But, but they come to mind too. So what am I going to say? I have
Right.
one friend who says only one friend's show a year. But I can't do that. I mean, like if I was in 2 shows, he would only have to come to one of them. That's what he means. At any rate, I saw this show the other night. It was a one-woman piece, which I love because I have my one-woman piece that I do. So I love seeing other people's. And this one was written by her or mine. I didn't write myself. And it's called Lemur Mom. And it's about a mom who has her son is on the spectrum, as they say now, has Asperger's, autism.
Right.
And it's her journey through navigating that. And then halfway through the play, we find out that she herself has ADHD. Now, you might think that this sounds depressing, but it was, I mean, I laughed so hard. I peed my pants. I cried. It was like, I think everyone who has a child on the spectrum should see this because I think they're all going to say thank you so much. Anyway, so it was one of those things where I walked away feeling this full, experience. But I'm trying to think of any big shows that I've seen lately that.
But that's good. I mean, one person shows, one woman shows, one man shows on small stages. To make you feel like that. That's a pretty good thing.
Yeah. It was good. It was good. I was surprised.
As you talk, you talked earlier about you mentioned Bunked, and that's just the tip of the iceberg as far as your Disney credits go. I talked about Ghost and Molly McGee, but you've done Sophia the First, Even Stevens, Good Luck Charlie. I mean, how does it feel to be a part of that Disney monster, the Disney family?
I love the Disney family, and I've had a ball on all those shows, and there were even more than what you mentioned. I mean, I'm a Disney kid, so they send me a Christmas present every year. So how can you not love them?
Absolutely.
I mean, they're the best company to work with in all the land, and so I feel very lucky that I'm doing their shows. There was one, it's funny because most of the shows I do on Disney, of course, are kids shows.
Right.
And you walk in and these kids, unfortunately, are not taught the etiquette that I feel is due an older actor like myself who has a large background, and anybody who comes on your show. You're going to go up to them. If you're coming on my show, Milo, and you're my guest star, I'm going to say, Milo, I am so excited that you're working on my show this week. I love your work. Even if I never even heard of you, I would say this, and welcome you in. But these kids don't have a clue. I wish somebody would tell them. I almost feel like telling them. But you walk in and you're like invisible. And so I have this one story I'm going to tell about one of these shows. And actually, it was not a Disney show. It was because some of the kids are great, so I shouldn't pigeonhole them all. Like, for example, the kids on Bunked are fabulous. They totally welcome me in. So I should. There are some shows, and I don't want to say all shows.
Right.
Anyway, there was one that I worked on when I went in, and the scene was I was the dresser to the actress who was playing an actress, and I was her dresser backstage. And I'm trying to get her into what is supposed to be this funny fat suit. And I'm putting it on her, and I have to be talking the whole time, and I'm zipping up the back. Well, I keep catching a bit of her hair, in the zipper. And she's like, oh, and I'm going, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. And it's like happening each time. And she's getting more and more upset, complaining more and more. And she hasn't said word one to me, by the way. She hasn't said, hello, my name is nothing. Right. Haven't even introduced herself. So I'm feeling kind of bad. I'm starting to feel like, oh, this isn't very much fun. And she's one of those too that she was wearing bare feet in the scene. And after each take, she'd go over and sit down and just put her legs up so that somebody could come and wash her feet. I was like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. So anyway, I couldn't get out of there soon enough to tell you the truth. And so I'm in my trailer. I'm getting my clothes on. I'm like, I just want to get home and get a glass of wine, And so there was suddenly a knock on my door. And I opened the door, and there's this very good-looking young man there. And he said, DeeDee Rescher, he said, I am so excited and thrilled to meet you. He said, you are Hollywood royalty. I know your grandfather and your father and what your grandfather, and he went on to name all the things that I'd done. And he said, I'm normally the director on this show, but I've got the week off, and I was just here watching your scenes, and I wanted to come to the trailer to tell you how that you are Hollywood royalty to me. And I was like, yes, now I can go home,
Right.
So, yeah, that was kind of nice.
That was fantastic. That's so good, and that's so touching when somebody goes out of their way. So, as far as like you said, younger generation of folks in the entertainment industry, who does that fall on? The agents? Does it fall on parents? Like how does it fall on? Is there no?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think the parents would know unless they were in show business. So I wouldn't blame them. And I don't even blame the kids because nobody's told them.
Because they don't know any better, right?
Yeah, I would say that there maybe it would fall under the jurisdiction of, say, an AD, an assistant director, somebody to educate them and say, we're having some guest stars this week. I hope you all introduce yourselves to them, or to take it upon themselves to introduce them, and because the ADs, mostly the second AD is the person who will take care of the guest stars who come in. And they're supposed to take care of me when I come in, and they do. They're wonderful. ADs are terrific. But I think in that way that it would be nice for them to say, I'm going to make sure that you meet everybody, and then we'll show you your dressing room or whatever, I don't know. That would be my answer.
We have a similar, so I spent 22 years as a professional wrestler. So we have a similar, I guess, welcome, so the first time you walk into a locker room, it's customary to go and shake everyone's hand and introduce yourselves if you don't know that person. So I guess it would kind of be along the same lines there, but seems like perhaps, again, if it's not being taught, then nobody knows.
And then you don't know, and you can't really blame anyone. You just got to go, oh, this is something that should be addressed. Because there's nothing like feeling not a part of things when you're trying to do something like that. And it's already difficult, when you're getting the haircut, the zipper, and trying to say your lines, and things just aren't going well.
Right. It happens. It happens. I mean, you talk about, being Hollywood royalty, and that comes from your family, but also you've done so many shows, so many recognizable roles. Obviously, the bus driver in Ferris Bueller is highly recognizable. Driving next to Jeffrey Jones, who is Principal Rooney. You were in Friends, which actually I want to talk about. You were working with Lisa Kudrow and both in Friends, and then later on in The Comeback. But again, Summer School, King of Queens, and one I want to talk about. Again, I know some of these roles are like, okay, but Empty Nest. I'm a huge Golden Girls fan, so any type of spin-off or other show that's related to Golden Girls, I have an interest in. So, but you did Empty Nest, which, as I said, is a spin-off of Golden Girls. Now, do you think that here in 2023, that we could have another show like Golden Girls today?
Oh, absolutely. Sign me up.
First off, I think you would be perfect for it. Um, but do you think even with I guess with the way with the PC with the way the world is a little bit PC now, and
Oh, I think it'd be hilarious because it's not good. Well, listen, there's nothing. I think little old ladies are always going to be funny, and because we've just got such a joie de vivre, and left to our own devices, things can get really interesting, and I realize that also that it's like not my world anymore. I don't understand the music. I don't understand. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. You can't give me a paper menu. What is, I have to, whatever. I have to scan.
I had this same thing about 2 months ago. I'm telling you, I'm right there. I'm like, I don't want to pull out my phone and have to scan something and stare at it for a minute. Just give me a menu.
Yeah, please. And so we don't know how anything works, and we've got older values. And the thing is, it still would be as funny as the Golden Girls because things change, but they still remain the same. Really, it's just the particulars change, but the overall scheme of things is always the same. So it would still be funny. I think my answer to that is yes.
I would love to see you. I would love to see you on it. For something more than just a pilot, by the way.
Thank you.
Hopefully, it would be something that would get picked up. But yeah, as I said, a very, I guess infamous. I don't know what the word may be. Very memorable scene in Ferris Bueller. Did you think a little role like that you would still be talking about here in 2023?
Absolutely not. I almost didn't take the role because it was too small. And it was like, it was only paying $1,000 for the day. Right. And it was in Long Beach, and I was going to have to drive to Long Beach, which is where I live now. But at any rate, and I was like, oh, you know what? I just need my medical insurance. I'm just going to do it. Nobody had ever heard of Matthew Broderick. Nobody had ever heard of John Hughes. I thought nobody will ever see this. I'm just going to do it.
Right.
Well, it's my claim to fame. I mean, and I didn't do anything. I mean, I just got in the bus. Oh, well, I did learn how to drive the bus.
I was going to say, yeah. So you actually drove.
I did. So when I left, I went up to John Hughes and I said, thank you so much. You have now given me something to fall back on if my career doesn't work out. So, but you can see the bus kind of jerking, I mean, right. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that you actually drove the bus and it wasn't just like, oh, it was just you sitting still pretending to drive the bus.
No. That was a fun part. And I had to really rehearse. I had to go around the block. And it was a blast. I loved
That's awesome.
Years. Too much.
And as I mentioned, you worked on Friends with Lisa Kudrow, and then the comeback later on. Did your work with her on Friends help lead to that appearance in the comeback?
I don't think so, because I fully auditioned for the comeback.
Oh, okay.
So when she saw me on set, she was excited to see me.
Right.
But I don't think she really knew. I mean, she might have known, but I don't think it had anything to do with it. But she's great. And I loved working with her. And that whole time in Palm Springs with the comeback was really quite something. I don't know if you saw it, but, I had to take my top off. I had to bare my breasts on television. And this was...
How nervous is that?
Well, yeah, I was really like, oh, should I do this? But the thing about it was a really good part. It was a really good scene. It was a scene about a woman who had breast cancer. I felt the whole character was empowering, and that I should do this, that I should just get over it and do it.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was weird. We're sitting out by the pool and there's hundreds of, people. There's, all the cameramen and the stagehands and and
Right.
the director comes up to me and he says, "Are you okay?" Just before we did it. And I said, "I guess so, I mean, I'm committed to it. I can't do anything now. It's too late." So I just did whoop. Ah! Anyway, so, but that was also a memorable time because sadly, my mother died while I was doing that show in Palm Springs during that time. So that was, I mean, I knew she was sick, and I had said to her before I left, I got a job, but I don't think I should go. And my mother said, "Darling, the show must go on." And she died 4 days later, unbelievable. So, yeah. So anyway, not for anybody to get sad here. It's just, it happens.
But I mean, that sounds like something an actor would say, though, that the show must go on.
Yeah. She was right there to the bitter end.
Now, you mentioned, your character there did have breast cancer. Is there, would you like to touch upon your own, personal life stories there?
Yeah. I am just in recovery from 2 cancers. I had in 2018, I had tongue cancer. Ooh. And that was eradicated with radiation and surgery. And but it was no fun. It was really awful. And I lost my taste buds for 3 years. Yeah, I know. Bummer. It's just horrible. I mean, like, everything tastes like shit. People are saying, "How do you know what shit tastes like?" Well, I know that if I ever taste shit, that this is what it would taste like. And then I thought everything was fine. I was feeling good. But then I felt something happening here. And I went in and they thought it was, acid reflux, and come to find out I had esophageal cancer. Stage 2, non-aggressive, and it had not entered the lymph nodes. All of this, hallelujah, good stuff.
Right.
And so I did the chemo and the radiation, and the tumor disappeared. I mean, so I said, "Goody, we're done." And they said, no, we're not done. Because if a little guy, you can't always tell from the PET scan. There could be a little guy who got away and is still in the esophageal wall. So you have to have this surgery, which is called an esophagectomy. And it's where they take out your esophagus and they throw it away or give it to Goodwill or whatever they do. And then they take your stomach out and they cut it in half, take half of your stomach and turn it into an esophagus. Isn't that amazing? And I had a lot of complications. So, and this was all during COVID. So I couldn't have any visitors except for one.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
There was a doctor who I had a mad crush on, Dr. Kelly. I mean, this doctor was like, I would get heart palpitation. He was my tongue cancer doctor. And so because it was COVID and he knew I was in for the esophageal, he came to visit me like 2 and 3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
Like a half an hour. I'd be on my phone with my, my support people, my best friends from New York, and I'd be like, "Oh, Dr. Kelly's here." Hi. So I had to keep going back to the hospital, but on one of my trips home, I got home and my husband was taking me through the kitchen and I could see in the bedroom, there was something that looked like a big surfboard. I said, "Honey," I said, "What is that?" Here I am. I'm like 90 pounds. I got no hair. I'm like, "Ah." I said, "What is that?" It looks like a surfboard. He goes, "Well, go in and look." And I go in and there is a life-size poster of Dr. Kelly, who's a surfer, by the way, who's wearing his scrubs. He's got a real stethoscope around his neck, and he's got a surfboard in his hand, and he's giant. I mean, I'm like, "Dr. Kelly." So my girlfriends had gone online. They had found the picture. They had the poster made. They sent it to my husband. He put it together the night before I came home, and there it was. So it was hilarious. And I took pictures. He took pictures of me, and we sent them to Dr. Kelly. So because Dr. Kelly knew,
Right.
And, I'm just an old lady having a crush on him. He knows. And so when I went back to the hospital for some complications afterwards, there was one day when you could have visitors, and my husband came and he brought Dr. Kelly. He said, I don't know how I got him past security, but he brought him. So now I've got this big, huge Dr. Kelly in my hotel room. It's like a hotel. I went to a hospital, darling. They all have ocean views. Anyway, there's Dr. Kelly, and nurses would come in and go, oh, it's Dr. Kelly. Oh. And at night, the nurses would come in and go, oh, oh. Anyway, I was known as you're the woman who has Dr. Kelly in her room. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Anyway, so that's my funny story. And I have to tell you something. I was funny during my cancer. I do my best work on a gurney. I do. I had the doctors and stitches all the time. I made a name for myself in that hospital. Anyway, and it was funny because there were times when, you get these nurses, and you get them for 12 hours, and I have a whole new respect for the nursing community. I have a whole new respect for the doctors and nurses, and the dedication is just overwhelming. But there are some times when, these poor nurses, they're on 12-hour shifts, and there's sometimes when you just get someone who's like I had this young guy, his name was Joey. And I had to finally tell the charge nurse, no more Joey, no more Joey. He wakes me up at midnight and asks me to do cartoon voices. He comes in the room, can you do your voice from, Sophia? I'm like, no, I'm dying here. You see? Anyway, the great news is that I have valiantly worked past all of it. I am totally cancer-free.
That's awesome.
All of my PET scans are completely free of cancer. It's not even a remission thing. It's done. And could I get another cancer? Of course I could, but so could we all. So right. I'm not living that way. I'm just going, yes, even my white blood cell count was normal last time. So I've even gotten through sometimes they say the treatment is worse than the disease itself. Well, it is pretty tough, that treatment, but that's how they eradicate it. Anyway, it's a good news story. I am as you can see, right. I am totally energized and youthful and feeling fantastic. So I want to say to God and to the nursing community and to all those doctors and nurses, my God, just amazing what science can do and what compassion can do. And I had both of them to the 100th degree. I was so lucky.
That's amazing. And you look fantastic. You sound fantastic. So youthful. I'm so glad you're here, chatting with me. There is a thing I like to do on the show. It is called the Milo Beasley Show Frequently Asked Questions. These are questions that I have. There are 5 questions, and I'm going to ask you. They're the same 5 questions that I ask to every guest.
Oh, no, I never got that far in your show. Now I don't know what you're going to ask me.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, so there's no wrong answers. No wrong answers. Okay. So question number 1. What was the first concert you attended?
Jay and the Americans.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Well, I remember because I went up on stage. I was wearing a blue taffeta dress with petticoats and ankle socks. And I went with my best friend, Sherry, and her mother took us there. And I remember we had autograph books and we ran up to the stage and put them on and we were screaming in the front row. And I can't remember what the Jay and the Americans song. Hey, oh, I've got her on airplane mode. Hey, Siri, Jay Americans, what song were they famous for?
Okay, I found this on the web for how do you the Americans want.
Oh, she doesn't know. She didn't understand my question.
They're
keep wanting to say,
come a little bit closer.
oh yeah, hey, come a little bit closer. Yeah, okay. Next question.
So how did then? Hold on. So it's like your first concert, and you end up on stage.
Well, not on stage. We were at the lip of the stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good show. All right. Question number 2. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah.
Have you
I do.
Have you had it I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't know, I guess there could be, but have you had anything happen to you that you're like, yo, that was definitely a ghost?
Totally have. Okay, you see this ceiling up here?
Yes, and I love it. I love the truss ceiling.
Thank you. Well, that ceiling used to be an acoustic ceiling, and I blew it out and had the beams put in.
Right.
But before the beams went up and before the ceiling went up, it was an open black hole to my 12-pitch roof. So it was just this open, huge, like ravenous black space.
Right.
And the whole room was cut off with plastic over the doors and stuff to keep the dust out of the rest of my house. And I was crawling under one of the plastic things one night to get to my office, and I saw a ghost. He was in a sailor's outfit, and he was looking down at me, and he was sort of see-through, and he was kind of part see-through and part transparent.
Right.
And he was just wearing a sailor's outfit, and he was just standing there looking at me. And I freaked. And I called my sister, who believes in things like this, and I usually don't, and she's like, DeeDee, what you have to do is you have to go in and you have to say, you are released. You no longer have to live here. You are now released to go and go wherever you want and live your life and whatever. So, and anyway, I saw him. That's all I got to say. And I don't know, I live right by the water. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, and my house is in 1906, and it's got this little tiny room that's right off the foyer that I use as an office, but its purpose was a waiting room for the sailors to come in when you got them something to eat when their ships came in. So they would go to people's houses, and as a community, you would feed these guys.
Right.
So anyway, that's the sailor waiting room. So I'm like one of the
just
sailors.
Wanted a sandwich.
Yeah.
He wasn't there to harm you. He just wanted a sandwich.
Anyway, I haven't seen him since, so I think the little exorcism worked.
So I'm super excited for your next the next question, and this is a question we ask everyone. So it's great that I have you on here. But in a movie about your life, who would play your parents?
Well, I think my mother would be a cross between Joan Crawford and Vivian Lee.
Okay.
And my father would be a cross between James Cagney and I can't think of his name. Let's just say James Cagney right now.
I like it. It gives me an idea of, you know, personalities, looks. It gives me a little insight into people's lives.
Okay. Let's see.
Oh,
Here they are.
That's a great photo.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
That's a great photo.
Segue.
All right. Question number 4.
Yes.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Well, it would have to be George Harrison.
George Harrison.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever get a chance to see the Beatles live?
No, but are you talking about somebody I was with?
No, just your first crush. So like you saw them and you're like, oh, that person is beautiful. I love them.
Yeah. Well, I think the first one would be George Harrison, but there were so many. I mean, and don't even start to ask me who I was with.
Nope. That's for the next show. That's for the next show.
Right. That's the Rated X show.
So along, I was gonna say along the same lines, but it's really not along the same lines. But clearly, you've been in the industry for a long time. You've met so many people, but has there been that one person? So question number 5 is that one person that you saw and you absolutely fanboyed out. You either couldn't speak to them or you spoke way too much. You put your foot in your mouth, you look silly, and you were like, I shouldn't have said that.
Oh, gosh.
See, I think this might be harder for you because you were involved in the industry early on and parents had friends and you met so many people that it was just like, oh yeah, these are just people.
Well, I can tell you that, you know, that's happened so many times, but I'll say my one that where I said too much and it didn't work well for me was Roseanne Barr. And I was a little, you know, intimidated, and
Right.
she can be intimidating, and I kind of said all the wrong things.
Now, was this before or after you were on the show?
During.
Oh God, the worst time ever.
I know, but she got me back. Did you see during one of my scenes in that show, the camera's on me, but it's behind her back, and she's going like this. She's completely upstaging me by scratching her back. And it's really like, that's a terrible thing to do to another actor.
Right.
I mean, why would you scratch your back when you know the camera is facing it and it's the other person's scene?
To get people to look at your back.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, yeah, I can tell you kind of what happened. Well, maybe I shouldn't. I don't want to, you know. Listen, I'm already in trouble.
No, we don't want any bad juju.
My husband's gonna go, why did you have to say the thing about don't tell them about all the people I was with? I'm gonna be like, we're gonna be getting off this. I'm gonna go, Milo, can you take that part out?
It's entertainment. Nothing's real.
Well, yeah, you know, this one thing my husband does get about me. I mean, he totally gets me. You know, I mean, he understands that I'll do almost anything for a laugh.
Right. I'm right there with you. I'm 100% right there with you. It's really for the laugh.
I'm wearing your necklace, honey. That'll be it.
Now, another thing, you know, I want to talk about with you is that, you know, like, hey, today you're hanging out and we're chatting, but you know, that off time, what do you do with that off time that, you know, again, like you said, you I know you spend some of that downtime, on stage yourself, but when you're not doing that, what are you doing during your downtime?
I love my downtime. And as an actor, most actors have more downtime than not. So my downtime is really the 99% or 75% of my time. So you learn to fill it. And I've been so lucky. I have so many, I play piano and I play ukulele and I garden. And ever since I got my Fitbit, I've become like this. I can't stop exercising. I mean, if I'm at like 8,000 steps,
Right.
I'm like running around the dining room table till I get to 10,000 before I go to sleep. I've become crazy. So exercising all the time, and I take nature walks and I ride my bike and garden. And once COVID started, I started into art. I've got a whole arts and crafts studio now that I'm totally into. I'm having so much fun. And I do a lot of partying with friends and playing Mexican train. Yeah, it's Mexican train night. Everybody come over, have some pizza, and da da da. And my husband and I own a boat. So in the summers, we live on Catalina Island.
What?
Yeah, and so we spend the entire summer there, and it's a beautiful boat. And we are planning now. I'm so excited. We're going to take a big adventure because we kind of know that it's going to come up. It's a sailboat, so there's going to come a time when we're too decrepit to do. I mean, it's already getting hard to bend over. So let's face it, a boat is really tough. So what we're going to do, our plan is that we're going to have the boat sailed down to La Paz, which is on the Sea of Cortez.
Right.
And we're going to go live there for 3 months. And we're just going to sail the little up and down the coast there. There's like 700 miles of anchorages, all up and down the Sea of Cortez. So we're going to do that. And then, after that, maybe we'll have a couple more years with Catalina in the summers, and then we'll probably figure something else out. Maybe a vacation home in the mountains or something like that. But I'm busy all the time. There is not a spare moment in my life. And if there is, you'll find me by the fire drinking a glass of wine.
That sounds nice too. So do you? So what do you have before we wrap up? What do you have coming up, and where can people find on the social medias, your website, where they can find what you're doing and where you're at, where you may end up on stage?
I'm www.DeeDeeRescher.com. And I haven't updated it for a few years, but but I actually have started writing my updates, so I'm calling my webmaster soon. But at any rate, you'll get all the stuff there. I don't have anything coming up except possibly another Bunked episode. But my episode should be on. It's supposed to be in January, but I don't have the information with me. But keep your eyes peeled for the Buffalo Betties. They'll be gracing the Bunked stage very soon.
Buffalo Betties. What a great name. What a just an absolute great name. All right. Well, DeeDee, I want to say thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I was looking forward to it, and you absolutely delivered. And I feel like we probably didn't even crack the surface on your stories. So I would absolutely love to have you on again sometime, just to chat and shoot the old shit, as they say. I don't know. It's the internet. I think you're allowed to say it. Anyway, yeah. But again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
It was a blast, Milo. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And most importantly, tell your friends. By the way, I just received note that I am the number 85 podcast in all of Canada. I guess that's a thing. So, yeah. Canadians tell their friends, apparently. All right, DeeDee, thank you again so much. And everyone else, we will see you next week.